All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming to our masterclass today. This is one of my favorite subjects in the world. Time management. It's big. This time we are calling it Soulful Time Management, Balancing Life, Business, and Self-Care, because it is all important. And I find so many times with entrepreneurs, we are imbalanced, right? We are constantly doing the thing of the day, and we are jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing all day long and not really staying in our lane of focus. And the truth is, we cannot multitask. People, humans, do not multitask well. We keep saying we are multitasking, but multitasking really just means that we're doing everything kind of in a mediocre way. We are not focused on what we need to get done. I just finished with my mastermind class, The One Thing. If you have not read that book, it is a fabulous book. And it's all about sticking to the one thing that'll make everything else in your life easier or non-existent. So if you can focus in on what that one thing is in your business, that's what will propel you forward. And if that's the main thing that you're always working on, at least for half of your day, that's what's going to propel you forward. And I am a big believer of this. That's why we study it in my mastermind, that if we know what that one thing is and we make sure that we're actually doing it in a focused way, that that's how we grow and scale our businesses. Now, the one thing I find is with entrepreneurs, we're doing all the things, right? We are admin, we are marketing, we are the practitioner, we are the everything in our business. If you're a solo entrepreneur or haven't hired someone yet, and even when we do hire people, we find it very hard to delegate that actual work. So when we talk about time management and self-care, because self-care is a big part of your time management, if you're not creating time in your schedule for you, you are not showing up, right? You are not showing up in a way that you can help others. So that's how we want to show up, right? With our full cup, with time in our schedule. So when we're figuring out our schedule, we want to put in that personal time. Wednesdays, every single Wednesday morning, I go to the gym. I go other days too, but Wednesday is a morning that I take off, right? I literally take off. I go to the gym. My first appointment isn't usually till 1 p.m. Eastern time. Now I work later because Wednesday is the day that I might work till 7 or 8 o'clock because I work in all time zones. That's how I schedule my thing. I don't schedule anything for my Monday mornings. And Friday is always, always, always a no Zoom day. I may choose to work. I may choose not to. Tomorrow I'm actually not working. I'm meeting someone for a hike. But it's my get shit done day. And all the other things that I didn't get to, I can get done on my Friday. But I also do it in a way that when I'm not meeting with people, I'm very focused on just what's at hand that day, right? I usually show up in sweats, my hair's in a ponytail, I'm not dressed for work, and that's why it's a non-Zoom day. So I have that downtime to do it. And that's the best way for me to do it. But when we're working in our time schedules, we have to think about what does our week look like? What are we trying to accomplish? And in whatever days we're working, right? 2 days, 5 days, 3 days, whatever that is, what does it look like for you? And how do you want your day to go? Right? So, because if you're jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing, you're actually not accomplishing as much as you want, right? When you're very focused, you can usually do things in half the time. So I have days that, like I just said, my Fridays, right, where I just get stuff done. And there's literally stuff that I make a list in my calendar of things that go to Friday. So I take them off of my brain and they just get moved to that Friday. One of the things I do on Fridays is connections, right? If I say that I'm going to introduce you to someone, I usually do it on the following Friday because I take time to make all of my connections on Fridays. Sometimes people send me their calendars a lot. because I want to get on their calendar or have a one-on-one, and I don't want to just keep doing it. So Fridays, I actually look at my calendar, I manage it, and then I put other people into my calendar for the next few weeks. So Friday is my calendar management day as well. For other people, it's their financial days, right? If I have finance and bills and things coming up, I'll make time just to pay my bills. Usually the last day of the month or the first day of the month, I cross out a section of time to pay my bills, right? To balance all of my bank accounts, to see what that looks like. And it's literally in my calendar. So the first thing you want to put in your calendar is your self, right? You want to put things in your calendar that are most meaningful to you. When I was married, I used to put things in my calendar like date night. Those were important to me. When if I have anything coming up for the kids or my networking events, those are really important to me too, right? Networking events, they go in my calendar first. There are networking events that I go to every single month, and I don't not schedule them if I have a client. Like, a client doesn't override my prospecting time, because prospecting time is an important piece of my business. Going to those networking events are an important piece of my business, right? It's called prospecting. So I don't say, I'm not going to go here because now I have a client call, right? Those things stay in my calendar because they are important. And that's what time blocking is really about, right? It's about putting things in your calendar that are important, but also chunking things in your calendar that make sense for certain days. So I have certain days, usually like Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's changing a little bit now, but for a long time, it was Tuesdays and Thursdays I met with brand new people. So one of my goals is to meet 20 new people every single month. And I usually schedule them in a Tuesday or a Thursday, because that is the brain set I'm in. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm meeting new people. It's like a different frame of mind, right? When I'm in a sales call or I'm meeting new people, and that's when I schedule all of those calls, because that's my frame of mind. On Mondays, when I had a membership, Mondays were only for my members. If they needed to get in touch with me, they needed to talk to me about something, that's when I scheduled, because I didn't have to like be on. It's not the same as being on a sales call. So those where I would change, I would put them all together. So when you're planning out your calendar, it should be that like things, whatever your brain power is, your like things should be scheduled together on a calendar, right? So if you're doing, for me, it's like anything with a lot of brain function, finance, writing, things that like take a lot of my brain to think through, or creative time, right? That's usually in my mornings, and I block that out. Right? You could have a marketing day or a social media day where you literally just sit and do one thing. Like today we have a newsletter that comes out at the end of every month. I will be traveling next week. So we were doing that with my team. I was like, what do you need? Here's the letter. Here's the, we have a quote, we have this. And I was putting all of that together. There's a chunk of time, and that's all I was working on. One thing. I just needed to get that piece done, so then it's off my plate. I wasn't taking calls in between. I wasn't doing this in between. It was all done, and now it's completed before now, where I'm teaching a masterclass, right? And then after this masterclass, I have a few phone calls. But I keep my brain where it's supposed to be. So this morning, it was all creative. I did a blog post. I did all the writing for my newsletters. I did a LinkedIn post. We created some graphics. So it was a creative morning. And now that's all done. So my afternoon is a little bit different. Does that make sense? It's how we're chunking things in our calendar, because you will be much more productive when you can balance all of these things and put things that work together, right? And it's nice when you get to the end of your week and you're like, oh, I got so much done. and I have all of this energy still left, right? I'm looking at my notes to kind of see what else we have. So some categories of time are creation, connection, and calibration, right? Creation is when you're in creative mode. Connection is when you're either doing one-on-one calls, you're going to networking, you're doing something else. And calibration could be growing, adding something that adds energy to yourself. I always say I need time to be a visionary too, right? To me, that's important. Sometimes I take my morning coffee and I write in a journal. I write, though, as my future self of who I intend to be and who am I calling forward, because that's a very important quiet time. I do not do that every morning because I don't need to every morning, right? So some mornings I'm going to the gym or doing other things or taking a walk. Seasons also change for me. I do not have the same schedule every single season. Because in the spring, like we are right now, during this recording, it's getting brighter later in the day, right? So I actually take calls a lot later now because in my brain, it's still daytime, so I can still work. If this was winter time, and I live on the East Coast, and the East Coast, sometimes in December, early January, it's dark by 4 p.m. It is very difficult for me to work in those dark hours. So I actually just don't, right? It's very difficult for me. So I just don't do it. Like I honor my body. I honor my own time schedule. I honor the way things need to be for me. And that's how I do my schedule. Does that make sense to everyone? Are there any questions or things that you guys, you can either talk or you can put it in the chat, that you struggle with time, or something that's not fitting in for you and you can't figure out what it is? A real important one is, I always say, if you erase it, you must replace it, right? So if there's something in your calendar and you're constantly erasing it, you have to put it somewhere else. You don't just not do it. Like prospecting time is a big one, right? Or your follow-up calls. Follow up with clients, right? That's where all the money is, follow up, right? If you're not following up, if you're not making the personal emails, if you're not making the personal calls, and you're like, oh, that was scheduled for follow-up time, but I did something else instead, and you don't reschedule it, that's not good time management, right? You're missing an important part of your business, right? It's easier to schedule finance days or marketing days or creative days or visionary mornings, or that are chunked it's called time chunking actually. And you're chunking your productivity into times, right? So if you're constantly thinking on a Monday, oh, I have all of these posts I have to get out by the end of the month, right? You should schedule a time. I'll just take Wednesday and do all of my posts, then do 1 or 2 a day, or, oh, I need something posted today, and do one each specific day, right? You're better off just doing all of them and scheduling them. Do you block time after networking for organizing people you meet? So sometimes, it depends on my schedule, but I always, while I'm on a networking call, I always look up all of those people on LinkedIn, assuming that it's small, right? I look up those people on LinkedIn and I say, hey, it was great to meet you today at such and such event. I would love to jump on a one-on-one call and learn more about you and your business. And important thing about networking is really to build the relationship. It's not for an end client. It's not because I feel that they should be buying from me or they're an end client. It's because I want to get to know them better. We both showed up at the same networking event. I want to know who they are. That's important to me because I'm spending time in events, meeting amazing people, but they're not all going to be my end client, and that's okay. If I can help them in some way, they can help me in some way. Maybe we share a client, maybe we become affiliates, whatever that is. So that is prospecting time. So if that's important for you to block out a half hour afterwards to reach out to everyone, Perfect. I tend to do it during, but I did have an event yesterday where I started to connect with everyone on LinkedIn, but it didn't allow me to send a message because we weren't connected. It was a brand new event and we didn't have a lot of similar connections. So today I wrote in my calendar, make sure I make these connections and send out messages. And I did that this morning, right? Because it needs to be done. But things can be moved and chunked into time. If you're constantly changing direction and taking a call and then going to LinkedIn and then writing a blog and then whoops, I got a post, or oh, I got to comment on all these other people's posts, right? I usually spend an hour a day on LinkedIn too, just commenting and talking to people, because that's where most of my connections are made. I don't spend a lot of time in other social media, other people's groups. Don't spend a lot of time there. So you have to see what works for your business and how your time will fit into it. There should always be prospecting and networking. There should always be follow-up, right? There has to be creative time. Maybe you're creating a new program. Maybe you're doing something. I spent a lot of time on Zoom calls, teaching, right? And now I'm getting an inkling that I feel like there's another program in my head. I haven't figured it out, but I do have to make the space to kind of flush that out. For me, I do not flush things out sitting at my desk. That is not how things come to me, right? When I am really confused or overwhelmed, I usually go to the gym or I go on a hike, right? Because if I take a walk, I do something else, the answer usually comes to me. So I know if I've been working over and over and over and over and over again, and I'm not taking a break, that happens, right? That I need to kind of just take a break and get out of my office. That's a big one. One of the things I'm going to work on this summer is actually like taking my computer somewhere else or going to the backyard. I do a lot of reading. And I have let that slip a little. So now I'm putting it back in. I do read in the morning with my coffee. But now that it's nice out, at the end of my day, I will start to go and read for an hour, like before I have dinner. And I'm going to start kind of flipping that into my day, because reading is a really important part of what I do, right? I do read about industries and entrepreneurs and success stories and all of that, because that's who I lead. I lead entrepreneurs in the world. I have to stay up to date on what is happening in the world, right? And reading is a big, important part of that. I read through Audible in the morning when I get ready every single day. I do listen to Audible. So a lot of this is also routine, right? My routine is not the same every single day. If you have a great morning routine or something, and that's important, that's great, but make sure you have time to do it if that's what you want to do, right? This is more about time blocking and making sure that you have the space to be who you are, who you need to be. If you're constantly running from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, and you're not taking the notes or doing the follow-up and you're exhausted, maybe you need to relook at your calendar or figure out, like, why is that happening? Do I need all of these meetings? That could be something too, right? Do you need all of those meetings? I'm just reading the chat. Do you have percentages of the different areas, like 35% time marketing? No, because it's going to be different for everybody, right? All of my work comes from word of mouth. I don't spend a heck of a lot of time on social media. But if for someone else, if they get a lot of their work on social media, they'll probably spend a lot more time there, right? That's not where I spend my time, because that's not what really serves me. You should also be looking at what is actually serving you, right? If you're spending a lot of time on social media, but you're not actually getting any clients there, should you really be doing it? We don't get anything ever in 10 years through Instagram, right? So we don't spend a lot of time on Instagram. We do more on LinkedIn. We're spending more time on LinkedIn. I have an intern this summer who's actually coming in to we will start to look at that algorithm, because that's where we get our people from. I spend a lot of time with new connections, but follow-up is really important. So especially as I roll out the Soul Professional movement, having bigger conversations in bigger rooms with other big leaders and people that are doing global work is very important. So now I have to block out time for that. And those conversations are a little bigger, right? But that's what's become important. So I have to figure that out. But one of the things I let go was having one-on-one conversations with just every single person that's asked for one, right? Because that's not always the best use of my time, right? So that's why I have these free masterclasses, and I have free networking, and I have free stuff so people can come into my community and learn about me and make connections with other people in a very free, easy, non-threatening way, right? That's the way it's done. So it also allowed me to have more time in my schedule, right? Before I go on a class like this, or if I'm teaching my own accelerator in the school, I take about, usually, not this afternoon, but like before I teach my accelerator, I actually take the hour before that off and leave my office. So when I come back to teach, I'm very fresh. I'll review my notes, but I'm really fresh. So I try to take that hour before I teach a class of that level, just to be a little fresh. But that's part of what we're saying with this balance, right? This how we're mapping our time. So it lights us up when we show up, we're not exhausted, right? I very rarely will ever put like a podcast interview at the end of my day, unless it's like a time zone thing. But then what will happen is I'll make sure that I have a lot of space before that, so I'm fresh, because things don't come to my brain that quickly at the end of the day. I'm tired, right? It allows for my natural flow of energy and rhythm, right? So we want to plan around that. If you have a lot of energy in the morning, that's when you want to be creative, right? Maybe that's when you want to take a walk. No matter how many times I will schedule going to the gym after work, I will never go. I will never go. It's not going to happen. I had to stop scheduling it there, right? I'm more likely to go to a class than I am to go on my own. It's something that I know about me, right? So I had to start scheduling that. Even though I was going to the gym, I don't work myself as hard as when I'm working with a trainer in a class. So I had to switch that around, and I'd rather go less days and work harder than more days doing it on my own, because that's what works for me. So you have to work on what works for you. We talked about the lunar or seasonal planning, if that's important for you. Some of our businesses are very cyclical. I travel in the summer or in the spring, like I'm going to Costa Rica, I'm doing France later in June. So I have to schedule stuff around that, right? We all know that we get a lot done right before we go on vacation, and we're pretty swamped when we come back. So I have to allow my schedule to absorb how I will feel when I come back, right? I'm going to Costa Rica next week. So I'm trying to have some space those days before, even though I know I'll be swamped, but I don't want anything in those days that I could shift to when I come back, right? So I'm starting to look as like, is that a priority, right? Do I really need that there? Because I'm not sure what will happen right before. So I leave that space there and just go, it's fine. And then when I come back, I always leave like a buffer day in case the plane doesn't work, in case I'm sick, in case there's jet lag, and really just to kind of go through emails and whatever's there. Does that make sense? All right. We talk about non-negotiable time. We've talked about space. Oh, I have another note here about honoring white space in your calendar as a strategy and not laziness. So if you don't start your day till I start my Mondays very late. Usually it's 11 a.m. or 12 a.m. And it's not that I don't show up, but I don't know how every Monday is going to be. So instead of forcing myself to have early Mondays, I just don't schedule any of them. I don't schedule till 11 a.m. and after. That way, if I had a rough weekend or I was traveling or whatever was happening, I don't have to think about it. I just don't put it there. Right. So I just don't book a Monday morning, and I don't look at my emails and everything over the weekend. We should talk about weekend time off. So on Monday mornings, I need the time to kind of go through that, to answer anyone that's asked questions, to do what I want. But you have to honor it, right? These times should be non-negotiables, right? That's got to be a rule. If you need sacred time in the morning, it's a non-negotiable. So if you have a creative burst and like that morning and you want to go do something, you could go do that, right? Because you've created the space to allow it, right? You have client days and non-client days, right? Maybe you have a digital detox day. But these become your norms. Like they're part of your schedule every single week, or however you've scheduled it out, right? You should all think this is just a reflection question of what is one thing you're not making time for that your soul is asking for. I think that's a big one. I do want to talk about weekends, time off, nights. You need to create space away from your job, because as entrepreneurs, it is so easy for us just to continue to work and work and work and work and work. And sometimes we're launching programs or in the middle of something, and it is okay to work a lot. You know, as I was doing the movement, I was swamped trying to figure it all out with my team, and we worked on it just constantly. But even in that momentum, I knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. I knew it wouldn't be always like this. It was just right before a launch. But even when that was happening, my rule is to never open electronic, like my computer mostly, on a Sunday, ever. Like I cannot do it, right? And I still honored that. Now I will say when I was right before my launch, there was some Saturday mornings I was working. And every single Friday I did work. But now that the launch is over, I'm taking some of that time back, right? I have a rule that I don't work on Sundays. It took me a long time not to work 7 days a week when I was first creating this business, right? My business is over 10 years old now, right? So first it was just Sundays, sacred Sundays. They were sacred for me. I just needed the time. And then it was Saturdays. Let's see if we can do 2 days and we can get a Saturday and a Sunday in there. And that's what I do. And now I don't schedule Fridays either, and I don't schedule a Monday morning. So if I wanted to, I have a built-in long weekend should I need it. Most of the times I do work on Fridays. This is a bigger weekend coming up. I'm actually not working tomorrow, which is Friday. So that's what it's going to be. I'm trying to think what else. Sacred time is probably the most important to give you flexibility. If you get sick, it happens. You know, you want a schedule that you can kind of just move everything over and give yourself the space to get well. You know, I had an employee who actually got sick, and I was like, just take time off. Do not show up, because you're just going to prolong this. Like, just sleep. You have a weekend, and it was like a Wednesday or a Thursday. I was like, just don't push yourself, because you're going to get sicker and it's going to go into next week. So just take care of yourself. Take the vitamin C, rest, do what you need to. And that's for all of us as well. We have to take care of ourselves, and we have to keep our cup full to give to our clients. We are all healers in our own way. And you can't heal when you're working from a half empty cup or an empty cup, right? You want to keep your self full, your cup full, so you can then give to others. Does that make sense? Good. I'm just going to look over my key points right here to see. We talked about non-negotiables, time management. Yeah, now it's really just an integration is, I would say, to choose one thing that you can put into place to start to shift what this looks like. For you, if there's a place that you're still all over the place, start to look at your calendar and say, how can I organize this in a way that makes sense? You know, can I put all of my calls into one day or 2 days or every afternoon if it has to be, and keep your mornings open for creative, right? When do I do my reading? When do I do my self-care? You know, do I have a late night or do I have some early nights? Oh, this is more of a boundary thing, but I will talk about time management. Access to you from your clients, right? How much access do your clients actually have to you? Are they allowed to text you and email you and bother you all day long, right? Because if they are, that's because it's a boundary that you've allowed to happen, right? So when my day ends, at the end of the day, I have an office, which you can see. We should all have spaces that we work because it keeps you more focused. If you have a place that you go and you work every single day, it keeps you more focused. But at the end of the day, when I am done, I close my computer, I turn off my lights, and I usually go change my clothes. I put my hair up in a ponytail and I take off my earrings. Then my day is done. I do not sit there on the phone answering emails or saying, oh, I can just do this one thing. So if someone asks me something or asks me a question, it just gets flagged for my inbox for the next day. I do not answer all the time. Like, I turn off and I respect my time. It's my time, right? You have to respect the time that you take off. If you're going out for dinner with friends or you're going away for a weekend, you should be able to have this time without checking up on your business. You create that boundary and time for yourself, and it's an important boundary to have. But that's all part of time, right? Time management is all a part of that. And it's the soulfulness of allowing it to happen. When I'm going to Costa Rica, I don't want to take my computer. And I will tell you how difficult this was. I started it last year because I always traveled with my laptop. No matter where I went and for how long, I always traveled with my laptop just in case. And I actually, last year I was doing a trip to Europe and I was like, I don't want to check. Like, I don't want to check. I want to just enjoy. And it was like 10 days. So I had to do all the prep work to be able to be okay with that. And I did. And then once I got back, I was like, this was amazing. I didn't have to check. Now, did I look at my phone and check my emails and do that? Yes. Was I giving a lot of stuff back? No, but I never opened a laptop. I never took time to work. I never took a call. And it was the most beautiful feeling. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do more of this. So as I go to Costa Rica next week and I'm going to France later, there will be no laptop. And I will tell you, because I happen to be very busy right now, there are a few times I went, maybe I'll just bring it. Should I just bring it? Should I work every morning? And then and I was like, I'm not going to enjoy it. It's only 5 days. I'm not even going for a whole week. It's 5 days and 2 of them are traveling. So I was like, you know what? You're not taking it. There is nothing that needs you that urgently that you need to take it, right? And that's part of time management. That's part of honoring your time when you're doing this. Like, there should be times when you are not on a computer or answering your emails or doing whatever. All right. that is pretty much all I have. Are there any, I'm just reading through my notes really quick. Are there any questions, any thoughts, any part or any of you struggle? Or you say you don't have time? Sure. So I feel like I've hit everything in my notes just talking. Do you guys feel like I've covered everything with time management? You feel pretty good about it? Yeah, the most important thing is to make sure that your calendar matches who you are, not who you think you're supposed to be. I should also preface say that one of the things about entrepreneurs is I see both ends of the spectrum. People that work constantly and don't take a break. They're always in the hustle and the grind and the doing and the doing and the doing and the doing. And then I see another type of entrepreneur that hardly shows up and their schedule is wide open and, you know, they're having lunch and having coffee and, you know, answering things when they can. And there's got to be a happy medium because part of entrepreneurship is showing up. You have to work. No one is coming to your door and saying, I want to work with you, right? You have to network, you have to prospect, you have to follow up, you have to put yourself out there. You have to do some marketing, you have to do some messaging. Like you should all have the basics, but it's also, I heard another coach use the word like your foot should never be off the gas. And now I always check in with myself saying, is my foot off the gas? Am I still going forward? A lot of times we do it once we've created a program and launched. We go, oh, I'm so glad that's off my plate now. And honestly, that's just the beginning, right? There's so much more that has to go into that. And it's very rare for us to have such immediate results, right? No one puts everything out there and all of a sudden they have 100 hits and it's done and they just go and do it, right? It would be lovely if we all could, but that's not the way the business is actually working. Right? So it's, you always want to have your foot on the gas until it's time to take it off the gas, right? On the weekends, my foot comes off that gas pretty fast, right? At the end of my day, my foot comes off the gas, right? It's like I've driven a long distance, I've driven through the day, and now I'm taking a break. So think about that as you do your scheduling. Another thing is I don't do an electronic calendar, although I have for people that wanted, I just connected one for people that wanted like short connections about personal one-on-one work, because I do talk to everyone about that. But generally speaking, I don't use an electronic calendar and I don't let my team manage my calendar at all. It is a slower way of doing things, but I know from conversations how much time I actually need between that and another conversation, right? If I have a podcast interview, I don't want meetings right up to it, right? Because I really need to relax so I have my energy. My energy depletes pretty quickly. People think I'm an extrovert, but I'm actually an introvert, and my energy depletes quickly. So I know the space I need between certain conversations. So I do manage my calendar that way. And I don't do things every hour, like a 12, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. Like I don't do that because I just can't. I just don't have it in me, right? And maybe for me, things are slower and that's okay because I need that space and I know it. So I don't allow anyone to touch my calendar, but those are the kind of things you need to know for you. If you need space to recalibrate, then that's what you need. Like there are days, if you think of performers like Broadway performers, right? Or musicians or basketball players, you know, it doesn't matter. Like there are days where they rest, there are days that they practice, and they are days that it's game day, right? Show day, where they are on, right? But then usually after show day or a few show days, they are off. They have a rest day. And that's how peak performance works, right? They have to have rest days. You have to have practice days where you're doing all the stuff and going over all the stuff to make sure that you're really at peak performance. And then you have your show days, game days. So think about that as you're figuring out your schedule, but make sure that there is time for you to recalibrate, fill your cup, be more. And that's all I got. That's all I got. If there's any other questions, just let me know. But otherwise, I hope this was helpful. And that you remember to come to all of our master classes are live on usually the 4th Thursday of every single month at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Once in a while, like this week, it was the 3rd Thursday because of usually the Christmas holiday, the Thanksgiving holiday, and this is an Easter holiday. So we moved it for the holidays. And that's all I got. I hope this was helpful.